So you are our first podcast host that is outside of our team because we've had our first guest last week, which is Linda. She's a part of our team, but you're popping our proper guest, Cherry, today. It's Kara, and I feel very grateful to be sharing a bit more about your story with our audience. It's very inspiring. So we're going to be unpacking a deep topic today, a juicy topic, which is how do you grow the balls to make huge change in your life and your business? Because I came across a post on social media, I think it was Instagram a couple of weeks ago, that really inspired me to reach out to you because you've made some big changes in your business and your life in the last couple of years, haven't you?
I sure have, and thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
But no, it is definitely something that takes a lot of courage. And I am somebody who has been in business for basically my whole working life. I think I've only ever had 2 or 3 jobs out of 20 years of being in my career. And what I've come to realize is that you just have to be okay with accepting that you're not happy and that if something needs to change, you just have to make change. And often, I think that is probably the hardest and most scariest thing that you have to accept within yourself is that you are kind of the problem and you can have the best business in the world. But if you're not showing up excited and happy and loving life every day, then something has to change. And that is what I did a couple of months ago. And, as scary as it sounds, it actually felt so good. And I think a lot of people will be shocked to hear that and probably can't comprehend, like, why would you want to walk away from all of that, structure and business and amazing, growth that you had and just basically pull it all away and shut it all down and do something different. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this conversation.
But it wasn't the first time because you used to own your own beauty business as well. So, and you obviously don't now. So that's a big change. So
Yeah,
maybe give us a bit of your backstory. Who the hell's Kara? Because I
sure.
think I heard your name when you were a virtual assistant for a really good couple of handfuls of our clients. So that's how I first came across you. But who's Kara before that?
Yeah, and I think I was even the same. Like when Jay said Kara was coming on, I only knew you as the beauty boss VA. So it was like didn't link. So I said to Jay, isn't that interesting how you know someone maybe from their brand or you know their name, but you don't know their business? And I think that it's a really good thing to dive deep on a little bit more about you. Like where did it all come from and stem from?
Yeah, sure. So I went into my first business when I was 20, turning 21. So very young, very naive, very big dreams and goals. And I went into a franchise model. So I went into that with my dad at the time. And I was very lucky that when I graduated as a beauty therapist, I went to a job that had incredible business owners that ran, I think, 3 salons at the time. They were absolutely killing it. They just were so inspiring to me. And I was like, I want to be that person one day. I want to have my own salon and I want to be just like them. And I just was so in awe of everything that they were doing. And I think I'm really blessed that I was actually lucky to experience that because I don't think a lot of people do. And so the opportunity came up to start a salon in our local area. And I was like, right, Dad, like you just retired from the ATO. Do you want to go into business with me? And I think he was like, well, and at first he was a bit hesitant and then everything just kind of aligned. The location was there, the growth was there in the city that we lived in. He was kind of like, I don't really want to stop doing everything. Like I need a purpose. So he agreed. And so we went on this journey of opening our own franchise. And I think I had, the right mindset of going with a franchise, to be honest, at that age, because I needed structure, I needed guidance, and that's what it had. It was a model and I was able to follow it. And, from the day we opened, we had a team of 4. So I had this vision of, I'm not going to be hands-on, I'm going to be the owner, I'm going to run the reception desk and all the bookings and the growth and, everything like that. So I was sort of very driven to this is how it's going to be from day dot. And Over the first few years, we absolutely smashed goals. We went through the GFC. So we opened in 2007, 2008, 2009, GFC hit, and we were like, holy crap, like what's happening now? And we didn't really let it phase us. We just kept doing what we knew worked best. And we ended up growing the team. By, I think, year maybe 7, we had a team of about 8 employees. I had had my first child. I got married and I was like, right, I don't really want to be in the business anymore. And so that was sort of when I guess it all started to change for me. And I was like, if I want my business to be running without me, I need to make sure that I'm a strong leader. So I went through a huge area of like, okay, what does it actually look like and take to be a strong leader? And that was a really challenging thing. And it took me probably 3 or 4 years to actually figure that out. I made a lot of mistakes. I failed a lot. There's things that I probably went through as a boss that I wish I would have done differently. But I think the biggest thing I learned from it was I always had to take responsibility for where my business was. If it was failing, it was my fault. If it was doing amazing, it was, the work that I put in. So about 9 years in, the franchise model changed and we were like, this is going to be hard. We don't know if we can sustain this. We had $1 million business and there were just things and rules and things that came in place and we were like, we just don't know if this aligns with us anymore. And so even though it was a franchise, it was very much a family owned and run business and everyone in the local area knew that. They knew like our relationships with our clients and our community was what got us to where we were. And we ended up deciding to sell at the 10-year mark, which was when our franchise agreement was up. And we sold to somebody who still has it today. So it's still running almost 20 years later. Yeah. And from there, I kind of felt lost. I was like, I don't really know what to do. I ended up having my 3rd child unexpectedly, but I think that was just all part of the plan looking back on it now. I really struggled to get a job after I sold my business. Like no one wanted to hire me. And I don't know if that was because my resume was so like different. I just really struggled. I wasn't experienced enough to be, in some roles, but then I was too experienced in others. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And so I did a little bit of work in a marketing and coaching business and really loved that. And then after I had my son, I was like, okay, I would love to have more time with him, love to be at home with the kids a bit more. And I found it a bit challenging to work alongside bringing up kids. So that was sort of when I decided, well, maybe I give this virtual assistant thing a go. I didn't want to have the kids in daycare all the time. And I really wanted that flexibility of being able to work when it suited me. And I thought, well, why don't I just take all of that experience of what I did in the salon and replicate that for other people? So, I don't really know what a VA does, but I'm going to just look at it as, okay, what did I need help with when I had my salon? What could have somebody stepped in and done for me that would have taken pressure off and would have helped me grow my business? And so that was kind of how it all came about. It just fell into place because I had, I guess, a bit of a network on social media of other salon owners. I just put a post up on Facebook and I was like, right, I'm going to be a VA who wants to work with me. And that first client I signed still works with me today. And that's 5 years on. And it's crazy how much has happened in that time with the pandemic and everything like that. But that's kind of my experience in a nutshell, and how I came to this, I guess, position right now.
So you were basically able to directly resonate with the shit that people need to do in their business but are bad at it and they don't like doing it. And you were able to roll it in glitter and make a brand out of it and say, I'll do it.
Yeah. And to be honest, I loved that area of my business. I loved making relationships and doing all the marketing in my business. I loved thinking outside the square. And something that they always said to me in the franchise network was, how did you come up with that idea? Or why are you doing that? Or like there was always conversations around the things that I was always trying to do differently. And sometimes I get in trouble because I kind of push the boundaries with the franchisee. But it just worked. And I really loved that area of business. And I ended up studying a diploma in business, specializing in entrepreneurship, in between having my baby and starting the VA business. So I felt like I was knowledgeable enough to actually go, like, I know how to help people, but I didn't want to be a coach. I wanted to be the one that went in there and was like, let's fix things and let's actually look at it from a whole and go, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to help you with that, and let's grow your business.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. And I think I'm the opposite to that. I don't want to go in there and fix it. I want to be the coach. And it's a very different concept, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think being a virtual assistant, it takes a lot of trust with your clients. Like, they are literally letting you see every vulnerable aspect of their business, to some extent. So I think, yeah, it takes a very specific type of person to be able to do that type of work.
And I think
100%.
even some of those life lessons, like, you've had so many life lessons with, owning your own business and then moving into the VA role. I think there's so many things that some people would even say, well, what does the VA do? And I remember when Jay and I first got VAs in our coaching business, and sometimes it's that scarcity, isn't it? It's handing that role over to somebody that they get so nervous about. So you would have to have very, very strong relationships with your clients.
Yeah, and I think something that really helped the VA business take off so quickly, because I think I got booked out within like 6 months of starting, was that a lot of people had said to me, like, I've tried to work with other people that aren't in the industry and they just don't get it. They just don't, they don't see things like you see it. And I'm like, it's because I've been there. Like, I could probably even, go into a salon and know everything that I could do to improve it without even having a conversation with the owner. And, I think that was a real point of difference for people. And they kind of went, okay, like, this is actually easy for me to do, because I think a lot of the time people had that perception of, like, bringing a team member in or bringing a virtual assistant on, it's going to be hard. It's going to be time consuming. It's going to be a lot more work than I have, the time for. And I was kind of able to do the opposite. I was able to kind of just come in and just with a few bits of information, make change. And so I think that was how it took off so well and so quickly, and just grew phenomenally in the first couple of years.
Yeah, when you've walked the walk and you can talk the talk, so you know what they're wanting, their expectations.
Yeah, definitely.
So good.
Marie and I went to Bali last year, and it was like a work trip, and we had a coach come in for the day and talk business. He lives in Bali, which a lot of coaches do, because you can work virtually. Probably not a reality when you've got kids though, hey, Kara, but it's a little bit, there's a few more moving parts with that, but anyway, whatever. But one thing that he said that, like, it punched me was often business owners grow their business to a point where it stops aligning with their personal values. Yeah. So the money's there, the success is there, the clients are there, you're booked out, but the actual work or the model that you've created doesn't bring you joy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then he went on to say, if you saw your exact job as you're doing it right now, advertised for how much money you earn, with the stuff that you do every day, would you apply for it? And you know what my answer was at that moment?
Yeah.
Not a fucking chance would I apply for this job. Yeah. Like, and then I thought, well, why am I doing it? Like, I'm a business owner. Like, it doesn't make sense. So it'd be good to start to tap into what did you, like, you grew really fast with Beauty Boss VA, and rightly so, but then you changed it.
Yeah.
And from an outsider, people would go, you idiot.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, and that's completely true. Like, a lot of people are probably looking at it going, like, why didn't you just sell it? Or why didn't you just, hire other people to run it without you? And yeah, I could have probably done all of those things, but at the end of the day, I had a lot going on, not just in my business, but my personal life as well. And I think particularly as women with children in business, we often think that we just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and just be that superwoman and just do everything and do it well. And I tried for probably about a year to find joy again. And I really tried to look at my business and go, okay, like what's not working well? What could I do differently? How do I keep making good money, but maybe working less? And I just kept hitting barrier after barrier after barrier. And I was like, I'm just miserable. And it actually came to the start of this year. My family got really sick with pneumonia, and it was one after the other. And the only person that didn't get it was me. So that happened. Plus, this is something I haven't really shared, but my daughter has been severely bullied at high school, and that takes a massive mental toll on you. And it's something
Absolutely.
that I don't think a lot of people actually understand the implications that that has on a family unit. And I didn't obviously share a lot of this online because it's her story, but that was one of the reasons that I had to go, no, enough is enough, and I have to make a decision. Is my family or my business more important? And at that point in time, I was like, I can't keep showing up like this for both my family and my business. And so it was literally, I got an email, and the email triggered something in me. And I was like, you know what? These boundaries that I put in place originally are just not there anymore. And this email triggered something, and I was like, nope, that's it. I'm done. And I think it was because someone was demanding something be done like urgently. And it was something so little that it wasn't relevant in the scheme of everything that was going on. And I was like, no, that's it. I'm taking a sabbatical. I'm done. I'm pulling it back, and I'm going to just take a break and see what happens. And I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel nervous, but I just had to trust that that was the right thing to do. And I just posted the post, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. And you know what? I had so many messages of support when I did that it blew me away. And I was like, okay, I've made the right decision, and everything's going to be okay, and it will work out, and it'll be fine. But yeah, and that was really it. Like I just had to make a decision. Like, is it more important to keep growing the business and feel miserable and not aligned, or is it, better that I do the hard thing and go, no, enough is enough?
Yeah, it'd feel like a real roller coaster too. Like you're in, you're out, you feel, and if you're having a daughter going through some terrible challenges and at school, it definitely puts pressure on what changes do you need to make and what's more important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I don't want to look back on my life and go, you know what, I really should have taken a step back and prioritized my children more than what I did. And I don't want to live with regret. So that was sort of one of the main reasons why I went, okay, and I also had lots of signs through my own health as well. Like I was constantly having migraines, and I have, a lot going on myself with my health. And I was like, that's a sign in itself. I'm living in stress. I'm living in cortisol, and I need to actually do something. And I can't fix that unless I take the stress away. And yes, some of that stress was obviously personal as well, but a lot of it was business. And I just could not switch off. I couldn't take a holiday. I couldn't, the business solely relied on me being a virtual assistant. And it just wasn't like I had with the salon where I could just, step out and go, okay, the managers are running it, I'm having a holiday. And I think that was sort of a part of it as well, was I was like, okay, well, this is just not serving me. And so that's how it basically all came about.
It's interesting. You think about the entire concept of the business is to make business owners' lives easier and to reduce their stress. And then, I think I can resonate with that because, of course, we're coaches. It's different, but similar properties that you can help your clients achieve that, but you might not be doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And then that lacks integrity in your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, you battle with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd be telling your clients, have boundaries and let me manage your emails, and then you're getting triggering emails and so on. So it's really complex. And I think again, when I saw your Instagram post, I think a lot of what you said in that in that video resonated with me, and it's like, you know, when you need to hear something,
Yeah.
you see it and hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we've been through big changes and continuing to go through big changes. And I think if that message inspired me, it's got the potential to inspire more people, you
Yeah.
know, to make bigger changes. It's like, did you ever have things pop up for you, Kara, about your identity with success and then what people would think or how
Yeah.
you would see yourself? It's like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, or money, like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm worthy because I earn this much money. Like, was there things like that that popped up and entered your decision making?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that I have struggled with was like, what are people going to think? Like, are they just going to think I've failed and, like I just, had a bad business and, that was the reason I decided to stop. And yeah, you definitely think about all of those things. But I think for me, like, because I had been at that point where we were making, multiple six figures a year as a virtual assistant business, but it was so much harder. And even though we were making, 30, 40 grand a month, I was like, there is so much going out the door. There are so many expenses. I had 5 team members. Like there was so much stress and pressure. And it just became so like I started to resent the business and I was like, am I actually making enough to pay myself? Even though I'm making all this money, why am I not actually earning good money myself? And I felt like I was just pushing and pushing and pushing for no reason. And so I slowly started to scale back. And it probably was over about a 2-year period that I made that decision. I went from 5 to 4 to 3. I had 2 members for quite some time. And then I think it was the start of this year, I decided to let my final last team member go. And I made the decision. I said, when was I actually the happiest as a virtual assistant? And it was in that first year when it was just me. I had, just enough clients that I was making an actual really good wage each week that I was able to pay myself.
Yeah.
And the work didn't feel overloaded or stressful. It was just easy. It was enjoyable. And, I could get it done in the school day. And so I said, okay, well, that's probably what I need to go back to if that's what I want to continue to do. And even now, probably 4 months on since I made the decision, I still don't know exactly what I'm going to do moving forward, whether I will continue on as a VA or if I'll focus solely on just teaching people to become VAs, which is something that I started about 2 years ago. So I have an online course.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, like it's still undecided what the future holds, but I feel good about it. And I don't feel like there's this expectation around it anymore. I have enough clients that I just love and adore, and the work is easy. The work is enjoyable. They respect my boundaries. They are just, they're the most beautiful clients and they've all been with me long term. And I can now pick and choose if I want to take on an extra project. I don't rely on it. And one of the scariest things was like my husband is doing an apprenticeship as well. So we're in the midst of, the trenches, but it was a decision that we made together that like, whatever happens, we'll just make it work. Maybe I'll get a part-time job 2 days a week, or, maybe I'll just, add on that little bit of extra client work if I need to. But it's funny how money just always seems to come to you when you need it. And like, as hard as it was to make that decision, I haven't felt stressed about money, which is really great. And it just seems to flow as we need it, which is, ultimately what you want in a business. And yes, I might not be making multiple 6 figures a year anymore, and I might not be paying, myself, 10K a month or whatever, but I feel good with the money that I do earn. And I don't have this expectation of like, I have to keep pushing. And burning myself out. So I think, yeah, there's options out there if you need it. And it's honestly just looking at your own personal situation and saying, okay, like, what can we really do? What can we afford? And, you know, if this wasn't a viable option, I probably would have just gone and got a full-time job, and I would have been okay with that. Because at the end of the day, you have to do what's going to serve you best for your family and yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to end up in an even worse situation.
Yeah, and I think some people, like, they go through the day-to-day life. It could be, you know, you get migraines like you did. I get migraines. It might be that they get run down, exhausted, maybe sick, whatever it could be. And then you get better again and you just get back on the hamster wheel and you keep going. And I think there's a lot of people that do that. So for you, it's been more to reduce down to a minimum and really think about, because I was going to ask you that, how did you find maybe cutting back? Because it's not often about just the revenue, it's about what serves you, and it's also about how do you make that change, and what changes maybe in your personal or private life do you need to make financially. And I think you've answered a few of those, but it does work and it will work. It's more about making sure that you feel good in you, and it's so lovely to hear your story about this.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? Up until probably a couple of months ago, I was not all over my finances. Even though I, you know, spruiked it a lot to my clients, I wasn't using a budget. I wasn't cooking meals all the time from home. Like, I was not aware where my money was going. And because I was too busy. That was my excuse. I don't have the time to sit down and do it. And as long as the bills are paid, that's all that matters. And I think when you're forced into that situation of actually going, okay, this is how much I have this week, I can't go, you know, over, you actually have to take ownership of it. And I think that is probably an area that is a bit of a weakness in our industry in particular. A lot of people don't know their numbers, they don't prioritize it. And I'm the first to admit that, you know, I've previously done that, and it's really hard. And now that I feel like I'm in more control around that, it's just, everything feels easier. And I think, you know, when you know what you need to survive and thrive, you can get through anything.
Absolutely. It's we find, particularly this year, people are coming later and later in their business owner journey to ask for help. You know, the ATO debts, getting behind on leases of equipment and credit cards and so on, because of maybe social media plays into that as well. What's that saying? Saving face. You know, but their salons are beautifully fit out. They've got the latest equipment, and you know, they're absolutely stunning. But it's admitting to someone that I don't love this, I don't like it, or it doesn't make money. But you've got to admit that to yourself first. I think. You know, there was a potential client that I spoke to the other week, and I said, how long have you been paying yourself $300 a week? And she said, years. Yeah. It's almost like she normalized that. I said, you could work less hours and quadruple your wage working for someone else with no stress. But it was letting go of that ego that told her not to do that. There was the failure. She'd be happier.
And that's the thing. And I think, like, we just have this almost like toxic obsession with having to be the best and making the most money and having the fancy cars and the beautiful fit outs. And at the end of the day, like, the most important thing that I've come to realize is it's not about the money, it's about the quality of life that you can live with your loved ones. Like, if you don't have that, then, you know, you can do all the business in the world, but what's the point? Like, you only live once. Like, you know, I think it's really important to really understand what matters to you most, and not be afraid to go, you know what, I'm not happy, and the only person that can make change is me.
I think give yourself a lot of credit and a big pat on the back, because what we see is a lot of the time, I know I see it personally, is you see a business owner and they have one child and they go back to work, and then they have a second one, and you can see they struggle a little bit sometimes, some don't, but there's definitely a change in them. But to have more and more children, it can actually give you more challenges. And I think you can't juggle it all. Like sometimes you have to be aware of that, don't you? And say, there's actually a lot going on. I've got more people here to be able to look after. And if it is a very big priority for you, you need to think about what needs to be changed. So whether it's kids, whether it's not enjoying it, you need to just make sure that you do enjoy it and it gives you the quality of life that you choose.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
I've got one more question. It's changed how you see money. Has it or not?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think beforehand, I was just always like, you know, I want to be really abundant. I want to be, you know, I want to be rich. I want to be able to pay off my mortgage. I want to have this, you know, incredible life. But when you go through some, like even we lost a couple of family members, like one after each other. And when you go through that and they were quite young in their age, and you just come to realize what is actually important in life. And I think for me, I don't want to sacrifice missing out on my children growing up. Like my daughter's 13 now, and I'm like, literally, I feel like I can't remember her childhood because I was just always busy in business. And yes, I've been home for every school holidays, and yes, I've been able to, you know, work around them. I still feel like I can't remember a lot of what has happened. And my youngest is 6 now, and I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to feel the same way when he turns 13. And so for me, that really was, I guess, one of the drivers in what I did a couple of months ago was I just don't want to feel like I've missed out on, you know, a lot of time in my children's life. And that's a value that I have, but it might be different to somebody else. So, you know, for me moving forward, I really want to be able to help other women in our industry do the same, because I feel like our industry just does not allow a lot of that, because it's just not flexible. It's not willing to look at mothers from that perspective. And yeah, that's sort of, I guess, where my heart lies. And I think I've probably been through all of this to kind of get me to the point of going, you know, this is what I need to be able to do moving forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah. I've had lots of life lessons pop up on Instagram and TikTok. And depending on who I'm talking to, sometimes I lie and say, I read an article the other day. It wasn't an article, it was a TikTok. But anyway, you know, you can call me on my bullshit if you hear me say that. But there was a TikTok, and it was a lady. She was a palliative care nurse or doctor. And she said, I'm going to share with you like the top 6 things that people say they regret about their life when they're on their deathbed. And I watched it. I've got it saved in my TikToks, and it was so deep. And as she was speaking, you ask yourself those questions too. And it was about spending time with children and money and career and saying I love you and traveling and all that type of stuff. And often what she said was so disconnected to what most people value right now. It was spicy to hear. Really spicy. Yeah.
And I think unless you kind of go through an experience like that too, sometimes it's hard to resonate with it. I think, you know, you can just get caught up in build more, chase more, do better, be the best, you know, like that is also something that is pushed on a lot of us as well. You know, there's a lot of that, you know, you've got to keep showing up, you've got to keep doing this, and burnout is real, and a lot of people are experiencing it, but they just don't want to talk about it.
It all comes down, it comes back to doing the basics, doesn't it? And keeping it simple and keeping things easy for you in your life. But simplification, we often complicate life, work, everything. Like, why do we need to do that? And I think simplification is such a big thing to learn, is, you know, keep doing things consistent, but definitely we can go, oh, let's purchase that machine, or let's put on 4 more people, or let's change that, just so we think it makes our life easier, but often it complicates it. And I think that's a lesson learnt here, is we can become bigger and we can feel like it's a place where we want to go, but it often isn't.
Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with wanting those goals. Like it,
Right.
I loved my business when I had 11 employees and I didn't work in it, and, it was great, but it has to be what you want it to be.
Yeah, in that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you're out for dinner with a group of people and they say, what do you do? And you say, I've got a salon, I have 11 people on my team. They go, wow.
Yeah.
Whereas when they say, what do you do? Oh, I'm a beauty therapist. I've got a studio from home. They go, meh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scumbag. But then you've got to look at who's happier, who earns more money. You could assume the person with 11 team members. It's not always the case.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
and I think that's where it comes back to that. It's that self-worth again, isn't it? And it's looking at yourself going, okay, like, what do I want to feel like? And it really is. There's so many things within us that we don't actually realize until we go through these things, that, we're chasing things because of something that happened to us when we were a child or whatever it might be, but it's not the real reason why we should be doing it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Very good. Well, I've got a message sitting there of someone that wants to speak to me tonight after school pickup when I'm sitting at netball training or soccer training. And I did negotiate in my head, I'm just going to be sitting there watching anyway. I can speak to them. But the answer is no. The answer is no. That's my time. So you've got to make those decisions, even though there's friction with making those decisions.
Yes.
So I can talk all day, every day to you. This has been, I was going to say fun. I don't know if it's been fun, has it? Like, you're probably going to have to have a glass of wine after this, Kara. You've dug up all your bloody history.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just think, like, if anybody can learn from my experience, then, it's been worth sharing my story. And I'm not afraid to speak up and I guess hopefully inspire other people to just know that it's okay to change their mind, to make, hard decisions, and to ultimately just make sure that you're doing what lights you up, because at the end of the day, it's not worth it otherwise. So, and that's 100%. Just from my own experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Such a lovely story.
Thank you.
I think I say at the end of every podcast episode, this is my favourite one yet. So I think they're all my favourite for different reasons. But thank you so much for being a guest. It's been absolutely amazing. And I can say you've definitely inspired me. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I hope everybody has enjoyed this story.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, make sure you do all the things, leave us a review, like, subscribe, press all the buttons, and we'll see you in the next episode.